we're going to be talking about racing. What do you think?
I know.
Welcome everybody. Let's talk racing. Wonder how that
Well,
works.
normally you got a little silly.
You talking about who
budget up there.
we're going to have on? You mean?
Yeah.
Well, you got little Red Vogt, Sean Beluzzo, and Monte Dutton.
You got Beluzzo? Do you really?
Yeah, he's supposed to be calling in.
Good. I'm going to hit up Dutton. I'm going to hit up Beluzzo for money. Now, who's the other one?
Little Red Vogt.
I don't know that.
His father is one of the guys from way back when with NASCAR. And he was one of those that sort of kind of started it and then got pushed to the side type.
What's the name again?
Let me give you his exact name here.
Yeah.
Give me a moment here. Thomas Vogt, V-O-G-T.
Last name is Mott?
Vogt, V-O-G-T. Oh, I don't have your screen on. No wonder you're not seeing anything that's on there.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Nope.
That might help you
If
out.
I don't know him, he doesn't exist.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh.
And I may have changed my mind about dinner.
Okay, I don't care. I'm very easygoing, you know that.
Yeah, I know it.
So, what'd you think about the past weekend's race at Phoenix? In-N-Out Burgers would have been really good, right?
In-N-Out Burger would have been the only reason to be there. It was so boring that at one point in the afternoon I turned it off. I went to PBS and I looked at there was a 2-hour Peter, Paul and Mary retrospective, which I've seen before, and I watched it more than I watched the rest. I'd rather look at Mary Travers at age 25 than Kevin Harvick at age 35. So it was awful, just awful. But you knew that when you'd gone in there, you knew that though.
Yeah.
You knew that if he didn't break or something happened, he'd walk the field.
Well, what'd you think about everybody, Tony and Bush also running the same setup he was running?
Didn't do Tony a whole lot of good, did it?
No.
Yep.
Not when you get in the middle of something, but it was working for Kurt.
Bush did fine. Now, who's the other part of that team?
Danica?
What did she
Your
run?
favorite,
What did she
Danica.
run? Yeah.
What did she finish the time?
She ran 20th to 25th to 28th all day.
But back at Daytona, she finished 8th. How
Well,
many
2 years ago, yeah.
Oh, I thought when did she finish this past Daytona? I thought she did these.
It was 2 years ago, I think. When she was a rookie, she finished 8th.
I'll have to research that while y'all.
Hell, I won a writing award 30 years ago, too. I don't know how any good now. All right, let's go.
What? So that's it for Phoenix, huh?
Oh, you were talking about Phoenix.
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, we got 15 minutes of racing news to do. So, what else, unless you got something?
I'll be surprised if he doesn't win again there in November. I mean, there's some places, like when Richard used to go to Martinsville and win, and Darrell used to go to Bristol and win,
Right.
and Pearson used to go to Charlotte and win with the Wood brothers. That's the way they are. They've got something, and that track suits his style, and there's no reason to bet against him at Bristol at Phoenix forever.
Well, now.
But on the other hand, at some point in time, something's going to catch up to him and bite him in the ass, and that'll cost him. But I can't imagine him just getting. I can't imagine anybody just beating him there, just outrunning him. It just doesn't seem likely. But stranger things have happened, but not lately. What's he won, 7 there?
Yeah, I
he won
believe
4 of the last 5 or 5 of the last 6 or something like that.
He's been pretty dominant out there.
Yeah. He's always been good there. And he was good there when he ran that Southwest Tour.
Right.
He probably ran an ARCA race or 2 there. He probably ran the K&N West when it was renamed, whatever it was named back then. So it shouldn't surprise anybody. He just kicked him all day long.
Now, so do you think he's going to be your pick for who's going to be the winner of the chase this year, or?
No, I don't think he'll win the championship. I'm still picking Edwards win the championship.
Have you started talking to your other buddies and start getting stuff together? Who's going to be picking who, and are you going to do that here on the show?
Yeah, Monty likes. Well, Monty will probably pick. I'm guessing Monty will pick Jimmy Johnson. Well, who do you pick? Mr. Behind the Camera.
I would, you know who I would like to, but
Well, Tony's not going to win it any more than you can win the.
Tony needs to
an
get out and
Academy
go sprint.
Award.
He needs to go sprint car racing again because he doesn't do any good unless he's doing sprint car racing.
I think what Tony needs is to get that right leg of his fixed.
Is he still having issues with it?
I just think he's got it in his head that he's going to crash again.
Is he scared?
You don't ever. I wouldn't want to say you're scared.
If you're scared, say you're scared. You know.
Put it this way, I think he's hesitant. He's a little more careful than he used to be.
That ain't worked out good.
I don't know.
Oh well. I mean, granted, he did like in the Daytona, he usually runs in the back anyway. And then about the last 50 laps, then he starts shooting up through everything. But
Now, I don't know, but that his first wreck the other day probably was as much Allgaier's fault as his.
yeah,
And then when he got all banged up, then after that, his car just obviously wasn't very good. So
cut down that front right tire and hit the
Yeah.
outside wall didn't help it anymore either.
yeah. So what does he think?
What do you think, Colin?
For Phoenix?
What about Tony? What's wrong with Tony?
I just think Tony just needs to, I guess, get focused a little bit more on what he's trying to do with racing and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think Tony's probably doing well compared to what he's been what happened after what happened last year.
Oh yeah,
So
anything's better than last year.
Oh yeah, he's been having a great year since last year.
I mean, his qualifying times have been halfway decent.
Oh yeah.
Better than what they were.
Well, I'm beginning to believe that just qualifying means even less than it ever has. It's just not the same. I mean, I grew up and I started watching racing and covering racing, and it was dull as watching paint dry to watch a car go out there and run around by
Run
itself.
for 2 laps.
Yeah, it's just awful.
What about the new Euro qualifying?
The group qualifying is too much like practice. If you get hooked up with somebody, with a teammate or somebody,
Yeah.
then your qualifying lap at that moment might be great, but when you drop to green, you may not be with that person again, and you may go straight to the back. I don't know. I do know this. I know that we used to watch qualifying at Pocono, and it would just take forever
Yeah.
to get people out there. And then what they started doing, if you remember, they started letting people go out midway through the last guy's second lap.
Right.
They'd send somebody out again. Well, it got to where they could have sent out 3 people, and they would have all been the same. I'm sure NASCAR could have scored it correctly. They could have had 3 transponders with 3 different ways, but
Yeah.
I don't think the new deal gives you the real feel for who's really good and really not good.
What about having a total just a 10 or 15 minute qualifying thing? You get out there in a 15-minute time zone, you run whatever the fastest you can, whatever fastest lap you run out of the 15 minutes, that's your qualifying time. If you got first, you got first, you got 43rd, you got 43rd.
I can give you one word answer. Television. Television wants a 1-hour program. At Daytona, they wanted a 3-hour program. If you remember Daytona, I think it was 3, it might have been 2 hours. Daytona might have been 2 hours. They started at 1 o'clock, and they had about a 20-minute lead-in.
Right.
Then they had the first 10 minutes, was it first 10 minutes or 15? And they kept getting shorter times toward the end.
Right.
And when it was all over, they had another 20-minute fade-out program. So television said, we want Daytona to last 2 hours. And that's why they did it. If TV wants to run qualifying at 3 o'clock in the morning, by God, NASCAR will run qualifying at 3 o'clock in the morning. They get whatever they want.
Yeah.
All about entertainment, right?
They claim it's entertainment, but you look at ratings and you wonder, people are watching PBS specials instead of watching the race. I don't know.
Start looking for reruns of something or other.
I do know that the TV said, we don't want to just sit there at Pocono and spend 2 hours watching 2 cars go around, or 1 car going around by itself. We just don't want that.
Now, when you're at the media center at the racetrack, are you doing more writing up your articles that you're getting ready to go out to Autoweek, or are you watching the TV just to see?
I don't, qualifying doesn't interest me whatsoever. Generally, when I'm at a racetrack on Friday afternoon, I've already sort of got my feature story or my column in mind, and I'm working on that to the exclusion of anything else. If you put that,
Nobody can see
put that
that.
up one more time.
That's just for your pleasure. That doesn't go over on the thing unless I decide to make it. That's just to give you a hard time because you can't.
Now, see, what you don't have the picture of me in Atlanta when Jeff Foxworthy called me out for not wearing shoes in the media center.
Oh God. Where is that at? Give it to me.
No, there's no picture of that.
Oh, okay.
Foxworthy and I got that off the.
You know, I could put up that other one. You know, the Danica autograph thing. You know.
I don't believe that either. That's photoshopped.
Photoshop.
How's it photoshopped? You held it up.
But Phoenix had the worst ratings they've had in quite a while.
Yeah, it was really.
And maybe the worst ratings. And let me tell you what, as the basketball tournament continues, I don't think California will have good ratings this weekend. Martinsville may be okay because it's an East Coast race.
And it's short track.
Yeah, and it's, I mean,
Tight
Martinsville,
racing.
exactly. Martinsville is far more entertaining than Fontana, believe me.
Oh yeah.
Fontana, they get spread out and they run like 7 grooves.
Yep. They absolutely, it's just,
That,
Fontana and Michigan, places like that are just awful.
and of course, if you had a caution every 5 laps, then it'd become an interesting race.
Well, you can almost set your clock on having a caution within the last 15
Yeah.
of almost any race.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, some of them are legal, well, some of them are legitimate, but some of them you gotta, well, you know, they don't.
Where'd that drink
That
bottle
little
come
piece
from?
of debris
Caution
wasn't
out for
really
like
necessary.
Where'd that tennis shoe come from?
Yeah. That,
Oh, look, it's a hot dog wrapper. Caution.
yeah, that little piece of debris wasn't really necessary, but my God, Harvey's got an 8-second lead. Let's make him work for it. So.
It takes the gas mileage strategy out of it, but it seems like they could not count laps or red flag it if they know it's going to be extended time period. If they're inside of 15 and they're going to run 6 or 7 caution laps, then for the fans to get a decent race at the end, seems like there ought to be some way to not have to count the laps.
But why do you penalize a team that's got that figured out? In other words, say 1 or 2 teams pits inside the window, and with 10 laps to go, there's a caution, and everybody comes down pit road except the teams that have already they're in their window. I mean, you can't not count those laps and penalize them.
That's true.
I think since day one, since NASCAR started, every lap that's run is counted except red flags, in which nobody can do any work, which is the equalizer.
Right.
It'd be interesting to go back and see who may have won or lost races based on if 8 laps of the last 12 were under the caution, you know, what difference would it have been? But if you're a good crew chief and you've got it figured out, you know, we're inside our window, let's go from there. So, I don't know.
Go push one.
Oh, push a button. I don't know which one.
Welcome to Let's Talk Racing. How you doing tonight?
Hello, Roger.
We got Al Pearce and Collin Brown in here also with me, so we'll all be asking questions and letting you do your hootenanny.
Okay, well, I'm here to help you and answer any questions that I can possibly answer, and those that I can't, I'll just say I can't. So, I'd be happy to discuss anything that your listeners or you would like to get into, you know, so.
Well, give
here I
everybody
am.
give everybody a quick background about yourself.
Say it again.
Go ahead and give everybody a quick background about yourself.
A background about myself?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, okay. Are we on the air right now?
Oh yeah, you're already live. You're rolling.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, I, of course, was born in Atlantic, Georgia, and raised in Southern Military Academies, some of which exist and some of which do not. The first was Georgia Military Academy, and when I was 4.5 years old. Yes, in fact, there is a picture of me on my Facebook page in my Georgia Military Academy uniform when I was 4 years and 8 months of age. That's known as a Woodward Academy now in East Point, Georgia. So it's all just a part of Atlanta now, as those people who live in that area know. I got out of the military academies and went into the Navy when I was 16, and I was a medic in the Navy, and qualified for the Naval Aviation Cadet Program. But I still didn't have my high school diploma because I had dropped out at the very angry father and mother, and so I got a leave of absence from the Navy to go back to high school. And while I was out finishing up my high school, the Air Force shortened their training program for their aviation cadets, and so I went and took their tests, and I passed them. I had a tremendously effective education in those prep schools, so I had no trouble with the test.
Let's fast forward to the racing part of your life.
Oh, the racing point in my life.
Yeah, that's probably
started when I was. I have to fast forward. That actually started when I was 12 years old, when I asked Dad to help me get into racing, because, of course, that's what he did and everybody around him did. And he said, well, if that's what you want to do, you better go get yourself a car. And I said, well, can I ask help? He said, well, nobody ever helped me. You better go get yourself a car out there at London Iron and Metal in Atlanta. And so I went out and I got a Junker 32 B model and brought it back to the shop and built myself a little race car and took it to Peachbone Speedway and proceeded to wreck it on the fifth lap of the race. But that's how I got started. But I eventually, through the instruction of a lot of great bootleggers like Roy Hall and Tim Flock and Bob Flock and Farney Flock, and most in particular Farney Flock, I was taught how to drive a car. I was fortunate enough to be able to go on trips with them and watch them, and they even allowed me to drive and told me how to get through corners and to do what I needed to do to keep from wrecking the car. And so I had great teachers, and eventually I got into a 1949 Oldsmobile 88 and first Darlington 500, but I turned it up, and of course the history shows the results of that race. And we even had a Cadillac in that one too. So I have to fast forward to having been a pilot in the Air Force in Korea, and when I got back from that episode, I went back into the racing business with Dad. But my dad was by that time married to his sixth wife, who I might say, just in passing, was married to her 5 times and divorced from her 4 times. And that was the official falling out between my dad and I, and that was the end of the relationship, really, between my dad and the racing with him. And I came out to California, and I continued in racing by building my own CT2 SCCA race cars and raced them out here on the West Coast for probably 35 or 40 years, and had a lot of fun doing it. So that's my own personal racing experience, and I've sort of kept in touch with it that way. And as everyone knows who gets involved with it at any level, doing whatever they do, whether it's being a pit crew member for somebody, or help build the car, or drive the car, or support the person who's driving it in some way. Racing is just a marvelous thing to get involved with, and those people who are lucky enough to get involved with it know that. So, though I have to say there's a lot of disappointments in current day racing, and I'm have been in recent years supportive of dirt track racing more so than I have to say I'm not terribly supportive of NASCAR racing these days.
What is the highest level, or the furthest up the racing ladder you went? What's the biggest event you ever raced in?
Well, I would say the Darlington 500. I would say that was the biggest one I ever went into. My personal racing career was not what, say, for instance, Smokey Unick wanted it to be with my dad. He foresaw, in his view, a boat dynasty in racing, like, say, the Petty racing has been. I know when I came out here to California, Dad and I parted, Smokey Unick used to call me for at least 3 or 4 years. He used to call me about once a month, asking me to come back, try to work with Dad in some way so that Dad and I could go ahead and build what was really the early makings of a real racing dynasty, because my driving was getting better all the time, and certainly my ability to help Dad and even my own personal ability to build race car engines and bootleg engines, which I was building at the time that I left with Dad. It looked like it was going to blossom into something really nice, but it just didn't turn out that way, and it was very sad. It was a very, very sad thing that happened. So
Was Smokey the best mechanic you ever saw?
I would think so, yeah. I worked with Smokey, and as a lot of people don't realize, when Smokey was 23 years old, he hooked up with Dad and came in and wanted to work with Dad, and Dad was very picky about the people that he chose to try to put under his wing. But Smokey was one of the very fortunate ones that he did take under his wing, and so Smokey worked with Dad for about 4 years, and Dad was very generous with Smokey. He treated him very much like a son, really, and he taught Smokey virtually almost everything he knew. And I have a trophy, Smokey Unick Award trophy here in the house today, in which it states clearly that Smokey gives my father 100% of the credit for everything that Smokey was able to accomplish in his own career, because of Dad's generosity in getting him started and teaching him all of the things that Dad knew. Dad taught him virtually everything that he knew. And of course, most people who really know about my dad know that he was the premier engine builder in racing for many years. So Smokey, I would say Smokey was the best race car mechanic I ever knew. And I know my dad felt very much the same way. He gave Smokey very generous credit for having his own capability to advance his own knowledge. And some people know that when my dad moved his racing business from Atlanta in 1957, which is at the same time I left his connection, he moved it down to the right back of the Daytona track, and Smokey set up his business right next door to Dad. And I know that some of the conversations that I listened to between Smokey and my dad, if they could have ever been recorded, and anybody could have ever listened to them, they would absolutely come unglued with laughter. And some of the people that would have wanted to have known what my dad and Smokey Unick knew about engine building and putting race cars together would have paid big money to have listened to those conversations.
Well, why isn't Smokey in the NASCAR Hall of Fame?
Because he knows too much. It's the same reason, Roger, that we're getting into some what the French family feels is very touchy area. It's the same reason my father's not in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It's the same reason that people close to my father, like Smokey Unick and Red Vogt and especially Raymond Parks, especially Raymond Parks and my father, are not in the Hall of Fame. And I doubt very seriously, in my humble opinion, that they will ever be in the Hall of Fame for instance, for as long as I live anyway. And anyone that is alive and would have to stand up on the dais or at the podium and say, speak the truth about how NASCAR really got started, whose idea it really was, and the funds that were provided for NASCAR to even exist from the very beginning in 1929, as up through until Bill France gained financial control of it in the early 50s. Anybody that can relate that story is probably never going to be in that NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Let me ask you a question. I am on the NASCAR Hall of Fame voting committee. Do you know how many races?
I know that.
Do you know how many races Red Byron competed in his career? Damn few.
I'm embarrassed because I had a hunch you might ask me that question. I have it in my notes, but it's because of the book I'm writing about my father, and I can't actually answer that question because what I'm really trying to figure is the number of races he drove in before he ever entered NASCAR when he was in NSGRA, and even before.
Well, but it's called the NASCAR Hall of Fame. What he did before is irrelevant.
Well, that's true. I can't. No, I wouldn't argue that point. But that's a sticky thing that I have.
Neither Red Byron nor Raymond Parks stayed around long enough to make a serious contribution. They were there at the start. They were there for maybe part of the second year, but their names have been brought up in every discussion we have in that committee. Their names have been brought up, and most people think they did not stay there long enough to earn a place in the Hall of Fame. Now, that may change because NASCAR corporately now has enough people on the Hall of Fame committee that they can kind of carry the vote any way they want to. But most of us look at the very limited number of races that they ran and just wonder, what's so great about winning 3 races out of 15? That's not a big deal. So that might answer you. And the question about Smokey, I know, but the question about Smokey is, Smokey's not in the Hall of Fame. He's not even on the ballot because he pissed off Bill France, Sr. and Jr., and made him look bad 2 or 3 times. And I think they've got a little bit of an attitude about Smokey. he's certainly worthy, but I don't know if he'll ever get in because of some of the things that it's a political deal, and Smokey's on the wrong side of the fence.
That I understand, and I agree with you, and that's unfortunate that a person like Smokey can't speak his mind, and yet still be recognized for his contributions. That has always been a problem for me. My dad was pretty outspoken, but he really didn't speak his mind as clearly as Smokey did.
In Tim Richmond,
The voting committee, and I have some umbrage that will be found in my book when it finally gets published. But I don't know if you guys realize that, and I'm not quarreling with you at all, because you have rules and you have standards that you are obligated to follow, and I have no quarrel with the fact that you have to follow the standards and the rules that you must go by. So that's not a contentious thing for me at all. But I think that the way the process was probably set up was not in and of itself a thing that was thought through, unless it was thought through to be exclusionary. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. You may know, or you may not know, that I'm the only living person now alive that was actually at those meetings in the Streamline Hotel in Daytona Beach, Florida. I was at every single meeting in 1947 in November and December, because there were meetings in November. I was at the meeting in Charlotte, where France and Oseki and some other people were there in a hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina, prior to any meeting that held in Florida. You may or may not know that Bill France was not responsible for the decision to call for the meeting in Daytona Beach, Florida. In fact, the purpose of the meeting was to reorganize the National Stock Car Racing Association, NSCRA, who was in fact owned at the time by two people in Georgia, Raymond Parks and Red Vogt. And the way that occurred was in 1929, when my father was hired by Peachtree Williams to come down to Atlanta, Georgia, to build bootleg cars for him. Now, Raymond Parks was working for Peachtree Williams at the time in 1929, and my dad had quite a famous reputation up in the northeast part of the country for building fast cars, and he had already gained some Indianapolis fame for building championship Indianapolis cars, building championship Indian motorcycle racers, etc., etc., etc. So that's how Peachtree Williams found out about him and brought him down to Georgia to build his cars for him. Well, Peachtree Williams had a very unfortunate accident by a garbage truck running into his armored car and got killed. And that's how Raymond Parks was able to take over the primary position of being the premier bootlegger in the South part of the United States for many years. And Raymond opened his Parks Novelty and Machining Company as his really clever and very profitable front business for his very, very large and extensive bootleg business. And since Dad was already building the cars for Peachtree Williams, it was a natural that he should continue to build them with Raymond Parks. And they formed a very close bond. They were very much like brothers. Very much like brothers. And they trusted
gotta get
one
it out of
another
here.
implicitly. And my mother, Ruth Olivia Maddox Vogt, had married my father up in Washington, D.C., and before they had come down to Atlanta in 1929. And my mother had a master's degree in business and a master's degree in...
I'm sorry, listen, we've got two other callers waiting, and,
Right.
and
Sorry to cut you off short there, Thomas, but
we're sort of up against the clock here, so,
No, okay, I understand. I'm
Right.
trying to give you a lot of history that you do not know.
well, okay,
At some other time, maybe.
that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, Roger.
have a good night.
All right.
I did not realize it was going to get that far along.
I want to know the name of this book.
He wants to get that book out there, Al. You should help him write it. You should help him write it.
Sound like he knows it all already. Sound like he doesn't need any help.
Goodness. But anywho, I don't know what happened to Sean.
Do what?
I said, I don't know what happened to Sean, but that's
What
okay.
about Monty?
Well, I can give Monty a call.
Give Monty a call. Monty's good for half an hour, 20 minutes.
We can always get him back.
God.
But yeah, I didn't realize he was going to go that far in depth on his own stuff. Anywho, it is what it is.
I don't know. It's just, man, he just kept on and on and on.
Interesting.
I don't think you don't make the Hall of Fame if you've only been around for 16 or 18 races. I don't care if you won all 18 of them. That's not enough.
Hey, Monty, you ready?
You asked the question.
All right,
Jump in
stand by.
there somewhere. Huh? That guy just began to get on my nerves.
I'm trying to think of something.
Oh, juice. I can call you back on that if you want. All right, I'll call you right back.
We got Monte Dutton coming up. Monte knows everything, but seriously, he does know everything.
Should ask him if he knows about Red Vogt.
I'm not sure he.
Hang on, Monty. I'm gonna put you on hold and switch you over. You hanging in there with us, Monty?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Monte, how are you, buddy?
I'm fine. I'll do it.
Oh, you still there?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay. How things down in Clinton?
good. I had a wonderful time at PC baseball game the other day. I spent half of it sitting in a chair talking to the women's basketball coach and half of it talking to the men's coach and his wife. And, well, I guess it's in thirds. I talked to the athletic director a lot.
Did you watch any of Phoenix the other day?
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah. I can assure you, since I started writing these Bleacher Report columns, it's not too different from being there in terms of workload.
It's a whole lot better press box too at home, I'm sure.
Yeah. The biggest thing is that when you're anticipating what you're going to write a column on, it's amazing how many questions you think are important won't get asked. That's the hardest thing. When you're not there to ask questions, you've got to make a good assumption that you can have something to support the idea that you're writing.
And that's the hard part of that.
At some point in time, do you subscribe to the theory that you can be the best there's ever been at a racetrack for 6 or 8 or 10 races in a row and win them all maybe, but eventually the odds are going to catch up to you? I mean, will Harvick go to Phoenix in November absolutely the deadlock favorite again, or the fact that he's done so much, does that eventually catch up to him?
Well, things like this are fleeting. I mean, the general rule in all sports is that when someone raises the level of play, everyone else starts working. I think in a way, the strange thing about that is, one of my big complaints about NASCAR is that for well over a decade, more or 2 decades, NASCAR has gradually taken over the responsibility for being in charge of close competition. And at a time where they try to make it where every car is just alike, in the last 5 or 6 years, never in the history of NASCAR has Chevy dominated competition more than they have in recent years. And so I think they've sort of taken free enterprise out of it. And I think that once upon a time, you know, if everybody came to Daytona and the Fords had better engines, then the Chevys worked on their aerodynamics or whatever, and these things sort of took care of themselves. And now those things are taken care of by NASCAR, and I think you can make a really good argument that it doesn't work. That I mean, the socialized racing of the last 2 decades it would work great if nobody wanted to win and nobody wanted to get around. If everybody was just content to run it same with everybody else, it doesn't work because people are competitive.
I was thinking back, I remember, and I'm sure you remember, the years that Petty at Martinsville, Waltrip at Bristol, Pearson and the Wood Brothers at Charlotte. We've had guys that get on runs like this before, and as you say, everything is fleeting and they will not stay on that run forever. But what Harvick's done has been pretty impressive the last 9 or 10 races.
You know, it's the same reason, by the way, that, okay, let's look, I pointed out in my column this week, let's look at the chase format. Harvick has finished first or second in every race. But even if he finishes first or second in the next 22 races, he'll have a pretty good little bump from all the bonus points for winning when the chase starts. But after the first 4 races, he will get no benefit at all. So theoretically, Harvick could finish first and second in every race till Homestead. And what in the world will that get him? It will give him an equal chance with 3 other people who are dead even with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, you know, and then okay, you say, well, okay, Newman made the Final 4 last year. Well, you know, sometimes a 12 beats a 5 in a tournament. But the difference is that in basketball or in football or baseball or any other sport, there's one team playing another. And it's not, okay, at the final race, there's only 4 that matter, but all the rest of you folks get to run around too. And so it's a little bit different because when Hampton, back up to y'all from, I watched play last night, when Hampton is playing Kentucky doesn't have to worry about the rest of the SEC running around on the field, on the court at the same time. and that's a pretty big factor when all of those cars can wreck and get in your way or whatever. So I think it's not the same thing.
Yeah. You got a question?
Hey, Monte, this is Collin Brown. Tell us about your career journey.
About my career journey?
Mm-hmm. Like how you got involved in.
Well, I've always felt that I had a real advantage because I've followed racing since I was a little boy. I went to the first race when I was 7 years old. Jarrett won it, Ned Jarrett. and so I felt like, I did like everybody else. I went off and, went off to college and all that and started working in newspapers. But I always sort of tried to work my way toward NASCAR. I thought I could specialize in it. Ha! What a good move that was. No. And so I got into the business, and I thought the advantage I had was that there's a lot of people who didn't know anything about NASCAR until they were assigned to it, and then they know all about it now, but they don't have a historical perspective. And so, I remember, Fred Buck Baker, and as I said, I saw Ned Jarrett win a race. So I saw Richard Petty win on dirt, twice actually. So I felt like that, one of the things that people don't realize, but of course people on this show do, is that racing's about like it's always been here. It was a mainstream sport in the South when I was 4 years old. It's just, it is for the whole country what it was in the South back then. As a matter of fact, I'm not so sure that if you went back to the so-called golden age of like the 60s and 70s and 80s, I'm not sure that, based on my just hanging around in Clinton, South Carolina, my hometown, I'm not sure racing is as big as it was when in 1985 instead of 2015 in the South. In the nation, it's bigger, a lot bigger.
Monty, I'm reading a book by John Feinstein called Where Nobody Knows Their Name, and it's about life in the minor leagues of baseball, which you might enjoy. In fact, I'll give it to you next time I see you.
I have read several books by Feinstein that are somewhat similar. He wrote I know I read a book of his about the Army-Navy rivalry that followed the football teams all year, but I believe he also wrote a book about the Patriot League.
He did.
One time.
Yep.
So to his credit, the fact that what I believe as well, that there's more money in covering the big time, but the stories are just as good in the small time. And so at this stage in my career, and that I just follow racing from home as a general rule, I get as much out of writing about the Presbyterian College baseball game or the high school football game in Greenwood. I think that the stories are just as good. But obviously, leadership is not as good. Yeah. I write a NASCAR blog, and there's 1,000 people on my website, and some of the ones on Bleacher Report more than 10,000. And I write one like the one I wrote today, and there might be 500 that read it. But it's still as good a story.
But what I was getting at, Monty, is you've been around, we've known each other a long time, been friends for forever. Who is the best race car driver you saw that never really got to the bigs, as Feinstein says? Feinstein writes about guys who got AAA and got real close but never quite made the hump. Who's the best race car driver you've ever seen that never made the show? And I think I might know your answer, but let me know what
my answer is Butch Lindley.
Exactly. Okay. We agree on that. Right.
And I'll say this, and the only other one that comes to mind was that he briefly we had a chance in the truck series. There was a kid racing at Greenville Pickens, and I just happened to cover, before I was covering as many cup races and covered a lot of things, I was always impressed with a little punk from Greenville named Toby Porter, who's, I say that with some endearment because I thought that he had that little edge of being very skilled, but being also, having a little mean streak in him that many of the great ones have. But he hurt himself badly. I think he qualified up front in the truck race at Phoenix and hurt his back real bad. It's never the same, but without doubt it was Lindley, because Lindley raced a long time and was that. Harry Gant says Lindley was the best driver he ever raced against. But I put a little, to borrow what they say on TV at NASCAR, I'll give a shout out to Toby Porter as well, because he really never had much of a shot.
Now him I've never heard of. I thought you might, and I don't know whether was Buckshot
the
just
same generation, by the way, as Randy Porter, another Porter who's not related, and Jason Keller.
Okay. Okay.
Marty Ward. But I thought that he was, in terms of just pure talent driving a race car, I thought he was the best one. Maybe maybe also the most, I guess, unlettered. I mean, he was, he's just a kid, wasn't educated and all that. He's just a good race car driver.
Yeah, I'm assuming that people, and again, you know him well, I assume that Buckshot Jones was probably just more money than talent.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
And
not that he didn't win a Grand National race,
Yeah.
but there's been a lot of Buckshot Jones.
The kid that went.
Buckshot Jones is like sort of like isn't John West Townley the latter day Buckshot Jones?
Yeah, the kid that went to Newberry. Who was the kid that went to Newberry that raced for a while?
Daniel
You're talking about Lyndon Amick?
Who?
Not Lyndon Amick.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
You and I
He's a
have.
preacher now, by the way.
Is he really? Okay.
That's why I think so.
Yeah. Now you and I have watched through the years, literally hundreds of guys who come up and they're going to be the next somebody, and then of course they're not. Do you think NASCAR is? I think you're the guy who famously said that you'll never have a serious diversity crowd until you take go-karts into downtown Philadelphia or downtown Baltimore or downtown New York City. Do you think NASCAR will ever have the great black hope that they're looking for? If Bubba Wallace is not it, who might be?
I think it can happen just by sort of, I don't know if this is the right term, but natural selection. But what my point is that most of the times the diversity efforts they're so anxious for the publicity that they put young drivers, the great majority, have been put in a situation they couldn't succeed in. You can't take a kid and send him to charm school and stick him in a late model right off the bat. And so if you really want to develop young talent and you're not going to rely on rich daddies, then I think that you have to have people racing at the bottom level. And as I said, if they were really serious in a long-term thing that would bring results, they would set up programs to get kids, really big on racing when they're just little kids, And so I believe that's what it takes. I don't expect that to happen, and it doesn't mean that a great champion won't come along anyway, because great champions often defy whatever odds are in place in front of them. But yes, I think that the the diversity program, they're saying an awful long time to give some results, and they've had some. I believe they don't get a hold of people till it's too late, as a general rule.
And of course, as you know as well as I do, that Lewis Hamilton never had any sort of entitlement program to get to Formula One, and Antron Brown, and there's a number of NHRA guys of a minority persuasion who never got anything more than just an opportunity and made the best of it. NASCAR apparently thinks they should go out and find a guy, like you say, and put him in a car and have instant stardom. And you're right, it doesn't happen that way.
Well, it isn't an altruistic program. It's something where the bottom line is that NASCAR knows that it would draw better ratings and draw better attendance if there was a wider range of the population. Now, the flip side of that is what you and I both may have seen many years on the media tour when the comedian Jackie Mason was appearing, where all of us went out.
Oh, yeah.
And there's some good stories related that I'm not going to delve into, but he said that nobody ever makes a big deal because there aren't many Jewish calf ropers.
Right.
And so there is something to the point where maybe, African America by and large have got enough sense to not want to run around and wide open for 3 hours in a race car at breakneck speed. But the fact is that one of the biggest things that comes into play, and one of the reasons that they don't want that, they certainly are quite capable of getting into any other number of high-risk endeavors, But the reason that it doesn't happen is because what is the sport that every kid plays? Why, it's soccer. Because all you got to have to play soccer is a ball. And one of the biggest problems is not for African Americans or Latin Americans or women or anything else. It's just the fact that the biggest problem with racing is that the uniform costs too much. Because you got to have $10,000 wrapped around you. And that's always going to be the case, which means, in racing, as much times are down now, I've always respected Jack Roush because by and large, whether he was right or wrong, he has hired young drivers to try to bring them along based on his belief that they were talented, not on whether they brought money along with the deal. And if there weren't guys like Jack Roush, Carl Edwards should certainly be thankful for that forever. There's been a lot of people, I'm saying that Roush has to be given credit for that because there are an awful lot of people in racing today who hire young drivers who bring money to the table, who've got a rich daddy, who've got a way to get their hands on money. And I think that Roush deserves credit, just as Rick Hendrick deserves great credit for identifying the people other people sign and stealing them.
Yeah. Speaking of Carl Edwards, and we got to go here in just about 3 minutes. Carl Edwards is my pick to win the championship. And we've gone through 4 races so far, 4 out of 26, I remind people, not 4 out of 36. Who do you like to win the championship?
Well, it wouldn't be very news much if I Johnson or Harvick now, would it? But I think that right now, Toyota's only lost 30 consecutive races right now. And so poor Carl may have stumbled in the same thing he stumbled out of. But I think that is fleeting. But I can't help but think about Toyota. Boy, I tell you, at Toyota, no telling how bad they'd be if they hadn't taken away their championship engine building and started building all the motors in California. Yeah. They have certainly succeeded in bringing Joe Gibbs back to the rest of the Toyotas, but that has not been a good move for Toyota performance.
So you're thinking Harvick can repeat?
Well,
If you had to bet right now.
I think it's a crapshoot, Al.
Yeah.
I think if the right guy wins, it's a miracle. I think that when you go down to the end, and no matter what happens thus far, there's 4 guys in one race, I think picking champion is kind of ridiculous. But the guy who's best is the most likely, even if he's only 1% more likely than somebody else. The fact of the matter is, it's based on season-long performance. Harvick was a legitimate champion last year, but he wouldn't have won it based on the whole season. So I think he's the most likely, but right now,
Yeah.
I don't really think he's going to finish first or second in the next, 30 races.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what. We miss you out there on the tour.
I hear people tell me all that, and I'm glad that people miss me more than I miss people, though. But it hasn't gnawed at me like I thought it would.
Well, I know when I left the daily newspaper job that I had for 35 years, not going to work every day did not bother me all that much either. But I still had weekly races to go to. But we appreciate you being on. Your insight, as usual, is spot on. I appreciate it. I had a nice chat with your cousin Sandra Parks today. We were talking about some travel plans to get to California. And I told her I might be hearing from you tonight. She said, give you her regards. She and Bill are doing well. Bill's a little bit bummed about Virginia not winning the ACC championship, but he'll get over it if they play well in the big tournament.
Well, I occasionally in your Facebook line or something, I'll see some photos of you with the park. So that's always good. I always enjoy that. I'm glad they're doing well.
In your comment the other day, your comment earlier about Hampton winning last night, you know who they play next, don't you?
Kentucky.
Yeah, right. So that's right. Yeah, you knew that. That's right.
Yeah.
That was your reference to the rest of the SEC. Yeah, right.
Right.
Monty, when will I see you again?
I reckon next time you swing through Clinton on the way to Talladega somewhere.
Maybe we'll meet at the bottom of the Peach and have lunch during Charlotte Week.
That's actually become a pastime. I've done that several times now.
Actually, you know, between the Hall of Fame meeting is on Wednesday of 600 weekend, Thursday's a do nothing day. Right down Thursday after the Thursday before the 600 weekend, I'll drive down to Gaffney. We'll have lunch together.
Yes, I should explain that there's a Fats Cafe right in front of the gigantic peach on I-85, which I consider to be the easiest place to find in South Carolina.
Absolutely right. Monty, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed talking to y'all.
Give my regards to PC.
I'll be over there a good bit soon.
All right, take
We
care.
got a baseball game in the next few days.
Okay, thank you, Monty.
All right, bye.
All right.
Now, Sean called while y'all were talking with Monty. He apologized. He was rather perturbed because he was just finding out that they're not going to have practice at Langley like they were supposed to because Bill and the lease and all that stuff is still up in the air, so they're not going to do anything till they get something figured out. So supposedly by next weekend there'll be something figured out. And I know you were talking.
I didn't have any idea about that.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say you were talking with Marty and didn't get a chance to find out what y'all said, or was that all basically it?
They are trying to renegotiate, and if they don't, there may be a bleak summer around here. But they're trying. They're working hard on it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the landowner's pretty stubborn, and Bill's pretty stubborn. So you know what that means.
Put a pair of boxing gloves on each.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that can be done.
All right. All right. We'll catch everybody next week on Let's Talk Racing.